Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, how are you, Michael? I'm doing well.
Well, I'm so glad that you're able to join us today and you're able to speak to our audience here. And Mark, we gave you a little bit of an intro, just telling people we're going to talk today about numbers, about taking that business to the next level, making sure that you're financially sound and all of that. And I know that you've been you spent a career doing this, but just in short, tell us a little bit more about who specifically you are and what the heck it is that you do.
Cool, cool. My name is Marc Adams, and I own Next Level Business Advisors. And what we are is a modified accounting firm, for one of a better phrase. We call ourselves Profitability and Growth Advisors. And we've done that because I've been around for about 20 years now. It started in the accounting, obviously doing basic bookkeeping and taxes. But what I find is that most people don't really understand their financials. So early on in my business life, I started trying to help people to understand their financials, but it morphed because I wanted people to start to grow their business. So you have to be able to take that information, that knowledge, understand how to interpret it, but then know how to make wise decisions. And so we started really focusing on profitability and growth because we want people to really get the benefit. Like you said, people work for years and years and end up with a hobby, right? Just enough scratch to get by. And we're trying to make that change the picture. I say that every business starts with a dream, right? You start your business with this dream and it can become a nightmare. Well, we want it to become a dream again. So we try to turn it around, help people do that.
That's great. So many of my clients, in the marketing world, they come to me and they say, hey, listen, we're doing fantastic. We got $1.5 million a year in revenue. We're booked up for the next 6 months. And I say, well, that's fantastic. And out of that, so what's your profit margin? Oh, well, we're just, we're making sure we have enough money to keep the business running. So they talk about the fact that they're a seven-figure business, but at the end of the day, they're a three-figure salary, and that just
Hmm.
it doesn't work. And I think that's one of the keys is in order to stay in business, you need to be able to take care of yourself as the owner. You need to be able to take care of your family. It's not just growing the business, but it's growing your lifestyle with it.
Absolutely. That's it in a nutshell, right? It's so funny because I do the same thing, work with a lot of different companies, and cash flow is a challenge. They might be bringing in all this money, but can't keep any, they can't stop the flow in their pocket to enjoy it. They're always out paying bills. I say, robbing Peter to pay payroll,
Yeah.
and that's not the
Well,
way you want to run a business.
I like that. One of the things that we have an issue in the home services industry, especially in the home remodeling industry, is you'll take that nice big retainer, but what do? You don't put it in the bank and then say, okay, I'm going to use this to buy the product. I'm going to buy the cabinets, the countertops, the tile, whatnot for the project I just took it, but rather I'm going to, oh geez, I don't have enough money to finish the project beforehand, so I'm going to buy some product for that, and then I'm going to sell another job, and that'll fund this project. And I don't want to say it's a Ponzi, but I mean it's kind of how that all begins, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I have worked with contractors for a lot of years, and that is one of the biggest challenges. You're
Yeah,
right, and it's like if I don't get this next sale, even though I'm working on this project, I can't pay my guys. And at some point, you've got to figure out how to break that cycle and get that retainer and use it for what it's properly set for, which is getting those products purchased first. So progress billing is critical in those kind of things. I think, and actually just understanding how to bill properly is really, really important.
yeah. And I mean, I think it all really stems though from pricing at the get go. We have just come out of such a financial roller coaster in an economic situation where we had supply chain delays, we have costs out, and inflation just out of control. And when you do have a backlog of 6 months, and I'm going to take on a project, when we're going to sell it in October of 2022 and we're going to get to it in April of 2023, you don't really know what the cost of your materials are going to be then. And their holding cost is a little too much, so you can't, it's not as if you can buy that material and just hold it.
Right. Right.
So I think a big part of figuring out how to be profitable is how do you price your jobs appropriately. And I'm curious if you've kind of run across that with some of the people that you work with, that they think that they're pricing right, but then because there's such a wait time between when they sell a job and when they do it, that they just don't have the funds to really complete it.
Yeah, you can peter out of funds really quick, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and so a couple of things that I often chat about with owners, and not just in construction, but in any field, right? Sometimes there's a lag time or what have you, but
Yeah.
whenever you have a product, when you're looking at a profit and loss, and it's a little nerdy, so forgive me, right? I look at three sections. You have your income section, woo, you have your cost of goods sold section, and then you have your other expenses. I try to keep a close eye on that cost of goods sold section. That's
Yeah.
the part that's going to make you or break you, right? If you're not pricing appropriately, oftentimes you don't have enough to cover the expenses and obviously your own living. So sometimes you might try to do some markups on the products that you're going to purchase, especially depending on time frame, right? When you're going to purchase. Other times you might have to just come up with some nice margins that are going to allow you obviously to cover those costs, and you want to build in all the other things as well, because until the labor hits, which can happen further down the
Well,
line,
that's a whole other conversation. The labor
right?
market,
Right.
is yeah.
Yeah. So you really got to build those prices. And that's the hardest part. I worked on a calculator. I was working with a smaller contractor and he didn't have anything. And I was working with the calculator trying to help him to understand the importance of how to mark up his product, so that he can make sure to cover those expenses when they come, the cost of goods sold, and still keep running. And obviously when you get that retainer, you don't just sit on that money. It's cash. It's called cash flow for a reason. It's going to be flowing in and out of the business, right? And so you have to know how to manage that cash flow. That's probably one of the most critical pieces for any business owner, let alone a contractor.
And one of the books that I probably read two or three times, and I always recommend my clients read it, is Profit First.
Hmm.
And the whole idea is, we don't take the old formula of, expenses less cost equals profit, but really, your price is, your profit minus the expenses. Um,
Yes,
and with that, I think that it's really important that you figure out how much, you need to get paid when you're pricing.
absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. I read that book too. It's interesting. Profit first to me is, for some of us, it's almost intrinsic, right? It's just the way we live our lives. Like, I think I was one of those. It's just kind of the way I live my life. I kind
Right.
of made sure that I had enough. But when I read that book, it really put a nice structure around it. Since that book has come out, I had some derivatives of that. Like, I've worked with clients to help them save money. I have a really cool cash flow management spreadsheet that I use for my clients,
Mhm.
which uses some of the principles of profit first, but is a little bit simpler for them to understand, because the goal is to be able to build what I call cash reserves, right?
Mhm.
And so with this cash flow calculator that I created for my clients, every single month we can use it to allocate money in the proper buckets, if you will,
Mhm.
so that you don't run out
Right.
too early, and build for yourself. Because in the end, like you said, we don't start business to pay bills. We start business to live a certain lifestyle.
Yeah,
And so we want to
absolutely.
have that lifestyle with our calculations.
And I know there's a lot of people out there who really do enjoy what they do. I mean, I'll be honest, my business, although it has expanded and I'm able to work, with dozens and dozens of people across the country now. When it started, I just love creating websites, and I put myself through college back in the '90s learning how to design
Woo!
websites. All right, I mean, it's now we've expanded way beyond that now, and I couldn't just build a site and charge a couple $100 anymore. But
Right.
I think the challenge is you've got to differentiate between what it is that you like to do and what it is that you have to do to make money and to survive. And that's where you have that challenge. And
Absolutely.
one of the pricing models that a couple of my clients are using right now. I think it's interesting, especially with the flux, and the volatility of the markets, is that they do their cost plus pricing. So they by that, they're able to figure out, okay, this is how much I'm going to charge you for my services, this is how much the management fee is going to be, and then you just have to pay the cost of all the materials, and I'll give you the invoices. And I'm curious if you've run into more and more people doing that, because I think it protects against the inflationary fees that you get in your material and even the labor cost.
I have run into a few people who do that, and I like that. It's a transparency, right?
Yeah,
For the
for
for
sure.
the for both sides. All right,
Yeah.
both sides. Here's the bill. Here's how you pay it. And I'm not against that. The only caveat that I have with that kind of a mindset is even if they're going to pay for the materials, if you're going to be the one picking up the materials, you have to build that in, right? And I think that's where I've seen some people lose money. So avoid cost of goods sold. That's a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
make sure to build in that time for yourself because a lot of times people love for you to, you pick
Mhm.
it all up and I'll pay the bill. But there are expenses, hidden though they might be, in you managing the collection of the goods, right? A collection and a delivery of those things. Make sure it's a business to be compensated for that as well. So
Yeah.
percentage increase on something like that is powerful.
And it's interesting too because you're talking about they expect you to do this, you're going to pick up materials, all the little things that you do as a business owner. How many of us don't charge for our own time? We don't value
Absolutely.
our own time, and it's there's a reason why there's this massive VA market overseas. There's a reason why we have people who make wage and tasks. Why we have who are making strategic decisions and getting paid for those. And I think that one of the challenges is really recognizing your true value.
I think that's what they'd say it for many business owners. We often compete against ourselves when it comes to pricing, right?
Absolutely.
I'll charge you $3,000, and before the person says anything, but we're going to give you a discount of 1,500. Don't compete against yourself. You know, it's human nature. I just want to be accepted, but at the same time, it's going to be harder to get some food on your table if you keep competing against yourself. Don't do that. Value what you're doing. And
Yeah.
look, I tell you, what contractors do, what kitchen remodelers do. I'm a pretty intelligent guy. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I'm not able to do it. I'm too scared to do it. And so you should be fairly compensated for that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, we do what we do well, and then hopefully we're smart enough to know to pay somebody else to do the things that we don't do well that they do. And
Absolutely.
when I was very young, my father said to me, Michael, you're great with computers, you're very smart, you think analytically, but man, when you touch tools, bad things happen. And he is right. It's funny because I work with guys who live touching tools, and when they touch tools, magic happens. Not me. If my toilet backs up, I can go grab a plunger, and that's about as much as I'm going to do. Maybe throw some liquid
Okay.
formula in, but I'm making that phone call. I'm calling somebody in. Last time I tried to install a garbage disposal, I think we flooded the kitchen for 3 days.
Woo.
So
Yeah.
there's and I think that the lesson behind that is know your value, but also know who you're going to waste time, and you're going to cost yourself more money. Uh,
I
and then
agree. I agree.
yeah. Yeah. So let me ask this, Mark. If you were a new kind of emerging business and you're just getting started, you've been working as an apprentice, you've been working for somebody else, you're going off on your own. What are the first few things that you would recommend them do when they're trying to set out their financials? How do they get started? How do they make sure that they're pricing appropriately and they're going to actually see a profit?
Wow, that's a powerful question. I will tell you a couple of things that I tell every business owner, and especially when you're starting out. First, create a budget, right? Create a budget because when all is said and done, you kind of have to know what you need to live, right? When all is said and done, and after you've created your budget,
You
uh,
mean
you
personal
can
budget,
you
right? Not a business budget.
that's exactly right. Your personal budget. You got it, right? Because you have to live, right? And then when you do that, now you start to construct your pricing matrix of what you're going after. If you can specialize, it's awesome because it's the expression riches and niches, right? But after you do that, then you're in a good spot, right? Personal budget first, and then you start coming up with the next. Now, when it comes to your pricing matrix for your business, I think you should try to focus on the type of client you want to have, which can dictate the type of pricing that you want to do. Does that make sense? Sometimes,
It does.
so when we start out, we just take any and everything. I'll do a kitchen. I'll fix a crack in the sidewalk. But if you go that route, you'll find you'll be wasting a lot of time. So figure out exactly what I want to do. If it's going to be kitchens, it's going to be kitchens, and then you start to build from there.
So
I it's a challenge trying to figure out the pricing, but when you're coming from somewhere else, you kind of have an idea of what it takes to price out. But you have to at least come with the minimum of what you would start with in order to take a job.
And I also think there's something to be said for niching down, and you kind of hit the nail on the head to me, is you can charge an awful lot more when you are an expert in a specific field than when you just take on everything. And I mean, I look at my own business, example of that. Back in the late 90s, I mean, we would work with mail order magic stores, bookstores. We would work with plumbers, work with hospitals, with anybody who wanted. As a matter of fact, we had a very large national chain that we worked with. And we would basically take money from anybody, but we didn't know any industry. Once we were able to and we were able to figure out we really like working in the home services, even in home services, home remodelers, with kitchen remodelers, people who are big ticket items that they good qualified leads. They don't need to have 1,000 people a month coming in. We were able to learn the industry, join the association, talk the talk, walk the walk with those same people, and it's easier for us to do our job now, but more importantly, people respect the fact that we have that specific knowledge and are willing to pay us a heck of a lot more to work for a kitchen remodeling company than if we were to charge it to work for, say, an e-commerce store. We know how to do SEO, we know how to do Facebook, we know how to do Facebook. We don't know anything about e-commerce.
Right.
Safe and said.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it perfectly. I try to use this analogy because some people think you limit yourself, but if you drive a car, I don't know, whatever car you drive, if you have a Honda, let's just say, and there's you need to get a repair done, and there's two car dealerships side by side. One says we fix cars, and one says Honda specialist. You automatically go to the Honda specialist, and the Honda specialist is going to cost a little bit more than the regular guy, but you're going to say, but he's a specialist. He knows he's going to have my parts. Right, he's going to know my how to hook up to my computer, and that's the way it is in business, right? So, and you said it perfectly. Even in the home space, there are niches. Right, I work with a lot of retailers who sell to contractors. Right, my biggest client, they sell windows, cabinets, and flooring. Those three things: windows, cabinets, and flooring. Those three things, primarily the contractors, also the developers. Some homeowners come in and out, but because they have that relationship, they know exactly who they're trying to appeal to. They know exactly what the contractor is going to need. It makes the job a lot more seamless, and as a result, they get to sell more and more, right? And so that's what you want to do. And if you are doing, let's just say, kitchens, and you can find one retailer who does cabinetry, boy, you can have this symbiotic relationship that can be beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
not only that, I mean, think about the homeowner who comes in. They want to buy, they want to buy cabinetry and they want to buy a countertop. I would so much rather go into that store that sells cabinets and countertops only rather than walk into one of the big box stores, into the Home Depot, the Lowe's. You can pick whatever you want. And I'm not going to get someone who's going to. They're going to. I might get someone who normally they're selling refrigerators. They're selling over the cabinets.
Yep.
And when you are able to expertise to your process, you're able to sell, able to generate more money for yourself. So it definitely works out. And you're right about the car. The reason why, if I drive a Mercedes, I'm not taking my Mercedes to the service shop down the street. I know I'm probably going to pay $5. And it doesn't matter if I'm driving a Mercedes or if I'm driving a Chevy. I'm probably still doing the same thing because I know this is something that I need. My car is I need. That better work for me, or my life is going to dramatically. I'm going to take it to the right person. With your home, even more so with your home. People want to have in your home. They don't want someone screwing around and do a hole in this wall. I don't know if it's this wall. I don't know.
Yeah. It's so funny how that works out. You hit it right on the head. I had a real short story. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I have a buddy who's a contractor, and he did a basement for another friend of ours. It was a beautiful basement, and he ran water pipes and everything. Well, he ran them close to the outside wall, which may or may not make a difference depending on where you live. In North Jersey, it makes a difference. First winter, those pipes burst.
Oh yeah.
So, right? Yeah. So you might know what you're doing, but even expertise locally, regionally, all of it makes a difference, right? And so that's what niching does for you. And if you're starting out in your business, if you're starting out, I would dare say, try to figure out a good niche and then figure out the pricing behind that niche, and you have a lot more chance to be successful.
Sure. And I mean, your company, I mean, you help people take their business to that next level. So
Absolutely.
I guess, once you've started out, maybe you've got some reviews, you've got some work under your belt, you can give off a few names to people. What do you tell people at that point? Like, how do we take our business now? We're a low six figure, we want to get to that seven figure level. What is it that we do at that point?
So, and that's really where we do focus. Like what I tell people when they ask, what do you do? I help people increase profitability and
Yeah.
position themselves to accelerate growth. So you're talking about that growth acceleration phase, right? And
Sure.
so what I do, and part of it is what we said, that riches and niches, right? Once you're at a point where you have a little cash flow, you're doing okay, you're positioned properly as far as profitability is concerned.
Mhm.
Now we're going to focus in on exactly the type of clientele you want to attract, right? And it will be things like change your messaging. You're building websites, change your to be more specific to what you want. And then there are different campaigns that you can try to utilize to do marketing
Yep.
and see if that's the case. But first, make sure you're properly stabilized, right? And then go for that accelerated growth. I'm big on finding a good marketing company, and we work with a couple of them. I won't say any names to hide the innocent, no, but a good marketing company, and monitor your ROI, monitor your return on investment, because you probably know better than most, right? Marketing dollars can fly so fast, and you don't
Oh
know
yeah.
if they're coming in. But the other thing that I really try to accentuate is to have a good system of understanding where your new clients are coming from. Where are they coming
Mhm.
from? Because that's going to be critical to understanding how your marketing's working.
So
And
you're talking
one of
about
the things that,
tracking. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you got to know, you got to have tracking phones. Do people come from Google? Did they come from a referral? Did they come to my website? Did they come from a Facebook ad or Google ad? If they did, good job. I mean, and you're right about that. I mean, how much money somebody could waste, spending money on Google ads, and then they find out that everyone actually came from one Facebook post they put up there, and they could have
Isn't
dumped.
it amazing? Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. But and it's easy to lose track of those things. So one of the things that we try to do with our clients is help them to understand how to track those kind of metrics, right? And it can be simple or it can be complicated, but you have to get those things in order, or else you'll lose more money than you'll gain. But
Okay.
once you start to do that, obviously there's the growing pains part of it.
Mhm.
That's a lot of fun too, right? Now I'm starting to really pick up, and I was properly positioned to grow. But how do I manage growing pains? You know how it goes. If you start managing multiple jobs, now you got to manage that cash flow. So monitoring cash flow is going to be critical. It's an ongoing process. Monitoring receivables, I think, is critical. So much you can't have too much money in the street. You don't want that much money on the street. That's the term, right? You have to learn how to collect those figures, and that's going to help you to start to evolve and grow. And so it's a constant process, but once you get those key metrics in place, you'll find it easier and easier. And like we talked about earlier, right? You focus on your part, which is delivering a great product, and let others focus on the other parts, monitoring ROI. That's what we do here, right? Monitoring cash flow, helping
Mhm.
receivables, so that you can do what you do best. I
Right.
won't try to change a pipe. You don't try to change the financials, and we'll both do well.
Yeah, no, that's so well said, because we work with a lot of business coaches who, they help clients figure out their financials, figure out, who's the perfect avatar, what is all that, and then we come in and we actually implement it for you and say, okay, now you've told us who that avatar is. Now let's figure out how do we reach, where what playground are they in right now, because we need to be there. right? And that's,
Isn't that the magic?
it takes a team to make it grow. And one of the funny things I hear a lot is, well, this all worked so well, 2 years ago when when I was doing a quarter of the revenue. And sometimes, what makes, what you do when you're making 10 or 15K a month is not going to work when you're making 50 and 75K in revenue. And honestly, I've seen people who are doing 10, 15K, they had a lot more money in their pocket than when they were doing 75K.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. That law of diminishing returns matters. Right. And you hit it right. And you know what you said, what works at certain levels won't work at others. That's why you have to keep your eye on things. But the one word you said, I was listening to you, was one that popped up in my mind right when you said it, team. To be successful, pretty much in almost any business endeavor, you have to have the right team behind you. No man is an island. Right. And so once you get that team, when you find the right pieces, now you're ready for that next level. And that's kind of what we try to help people to do, right? Figure out what team you need to be successful.
Yeah, no, sure. Listen, no matter how great Tom Brady is, right? He never won a title on his own.
Never on his own.
No.
Giselle said he can't throw it to himself.
We'd like to try. But anyways, well, listen, Marc, you've dropped just some real golden nuggets of knowledge on us today, and I'm sure that my listeners really appreciate it. And they're going to take something out of this. If they actually want to go on and what's again?
You just broke up in me. Did you ask for my website?
Well, I said if the listeners would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way they get in touch with you? Is that email, phone, website? To find you?
Email is always good. You can find me at Marc_Adams at nlbusinessadvisors.com. Marc with a C, so it's MARC_ADAMS at nlbusinessadvisors.com. I'm located in North Jersey. If you want to just drop us a line, 201-731-3358. And for listening, if you like, I have an ebook that I'd love to share with you guys. Is it all right if I just tell you how to find it?
Absolutely, please.
So my website is nlbusinessadvisors.com. If you do / the number 5 keys, KEYS, 5 keys, you'll get an opportunity to download our free ebook, which talks about mastering the 5 keys to growing your business. I think it's a must-have. Quick read, but gives you some nice insights.
That's fantastic. I think that'll definitely help a lot of people out if they can, if they get that, download the book, and I'm sure if they download it, you're able to find out who downloaded it, and you can give them a call and see if you can help them out as well.
Absolutely. We have a nice little format, what we call it a disco call, Discover. We talk about some of the challenges, and we offer that free. So we can just talk about some of your challenges and try to give you a couple of tips to overcome them. So courtesy
you don't offer that for free. That's complimentary, right? That's complimentary.
That's right. Courtesy of
we don't. Yeah. For all those folks out there, we're listening to the marketing advice. We don't ever offer anything for free. We give you it's a value add.
Yes. The way I learned it was, along with the free e-guide, you have a complimentary call.
There you go.
And I tell you to take advantage of it, because we really love to help. Even if we really love to help people, go to whatever level they need to go to. Even if it's a simple tip that we can share, we know you'll get some value if we just have a little bit of a conversation. I promise you that.
And that's so important that you have some kind of lead behind you, something they can take away. So if they reach out to you, they're going to learn something one way or the other.
Absolutely.
Well, Marc, again, I want to thank you for being on the show today. By the way, this is the Kitchen Remodeling Podcast. We are going to be here again next week live. Tune in for our next great guest. Mike Wolski, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure.